are worried about your competitiveness, what are some of the trends that you need to be mindful of, and all sorts of different questions. Particularly, I saw quite a few that came through the registration form. So I'm really excited to dive into today's topic. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Susan Barashai, founder of SIA Admissions. We are a boutique admission coaching firm focused on helping young, ambitious applicants gain admission to a top 20 MBA program. Every single week, I cover a topic related to the MBA application. So today we're going to talk about the 2024 application cycle and what admission committees are looking for in strong candidates. As usual, I have a few slides that will go through to cover today's topic, just so that we are anchored on a topic. However, I encourage you all from wherever you're joining us, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or here on YouTube, that you write your question in the chat, and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible, in the sense that I know some of you this is the middle of a work day for you, and want to make sure that I'm able to answer those. But if I'm not able to answer them quick enough, I will answer them by the end of the session. And you can always come back and watch the replay of this video on our YouTube. So I encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you're notified of our events. And also, if this topic is interesting to you, I encourage you to like it and share it with those individuals in your community who are also considering applying to business school. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the trends of what admission committees are looking for. This is, of course, always general, not school specific, but I'm super excited that as of next week, we're going to start talking about the school specific applications. And we're going to kick off that series with HBS as our first topic. So if you are interested in Harvard Business School, I encourage you to register to that session. The link is on the page, as well as in the comments and in the description of this particular event. So let's dive right in to today's topic. So what we're going to cover is going to be the application trends, some forecasts, what we anticipate for the 2024 application cycle, and strategies on what you need to be mindful of as you put together your applications. And then, of course, Q&A. But if you have, again, questions along the way as I'm presenting, please write those questions in the chat so that I can stop and answer those questions along the way. So what are some of the trends that we're seeing? Of course, I'm sure you've seen this in Reddit or other community blogs or community spaces that you are a part of. Given the job market, this is historically true also. So there has been an increase in application submission for this past application round or application cycle. These are unofficial numbers, but what we're hearing, the word on the street, is that it's about 30% increase in applications. Now, we don't know exactly what the quality of those applications are. However, about a 30% increase in those applications remains, or it's something that has been unofficially reported, but we are anticipating to have more concrete evidence once the class profile and that information is shared by top-ranked business schools. There has been a lot of talk around AI, the use of AI in applications. What that typically means is that we're going to have more polished applications. However, individuals who are extremely reliant on AI may suffer from false perfection, in the sense that AI will not be able to tell you what your strengths are, will not be able to tell you what your unique experiences are. So while there is a stronger application in the sense of the the grammar and the structure, it still remains to be seen as to the quality of applications that are being submitted with AI. We do anticipate, and I'll talk a little bit more about this on the forecast, that we do anticipate that there's going to be more video submissions as part of the application process, but we still have to wait for the new application instructions and essay questions to be released by each individual school. We saw last year, last application cycle, Berkeley Haas introduced their video component to the application, and we again anticipate more schools to be adopting this model. There has also been, as I mentioned with AI, there has, beautiful sentence is standard now. So a lot more shift has been placed on values. And I'll talk more about values later on. So what are your individual values? Making those connections with the school's values is going to be really important, right? So the depth of the application is going to become increasingly more important than just superficial submissions. And there's also a continuing interest in diversity, seeing the value of diversity and what that brings to the classroom, to the projects, to the work that you do. Obviously, global experiences are also important. We are shifting to or we've already been shifting towards a more globalized world, and being able to work with diversity is going to be really important, and showcasing that you have some kinds of experiences, where appropriate, of course, is going to be valuable in your application and continue to be valuable in your application. And of course, you are applying to top 20 program, which means you are in rooms of type A personalities, high achievers. So your professional achievement is going to be really important in here, not just outcomes, but also the how did you get there kinds of achievement, or demonstrating those kinds of contributions. And obviously the outcome is really just a byproduct of the work that you have done along the way. So what are we anticipating in the new cycle? So greater emphasis on thoughtful applications. Like I said, AI is making beautiful sentences easy. How can we make sure that you're submitting applications, or that admission teams are admitting students who really want an MBA, know why they want it, know what their contributions are going to be, and how that shows up in, it's really just how you're presenting your story. What is it that you're saying? That has huge importance here. Sorry, just checking to make sure that there's no comments that have come through. So since I stopped, why don't we just remind you all that if you have questions, just write your specific questions in the chat, whichever platform you're joining us from, so that I can answer them. We won't show your name on the screen. So this way, it's not permanently recorded, but definitely we want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So while we wait on those, let's continue. So we foresee goals also being more and more important. Schools do want to know, why is it that you're applying? It's something that I talk about all the time, and I've definitely seen this trend. Or we anticipate this becoming really much more important. So greater emphasis on your goals. The AA, so ambitious goals, and also attainable goals. And what I mean by that is, you should write goals that make sense in terms of your probability of being able to attain those goals. So they should be attainable, but also ambitious, in the sense that if you can get there really easily without an MBA, that's probably not enough of an ambitious goal. So you want to keep that in mind. Like I said earlier, we do anticipate more video video submissions as part of the application process, whether that it's as part of the application submission or after you submit. We definitely are going to anticipate seeing more videos as part of the application process. And then, of course, increase in authenticity. Like I said, there is a lot of available tools for applicants to use. And authenticity is something that you can't typically fake. You're able to. You really do want to give yourself time to reflect and to put together an authentic application that, of course, highlights your achievements, highlights your contributions, highlights your goals and ambitions that you have for your career. But it's really rooted in your authentic experiences, because that's really, at the end of the day, what matters to top-ranked business schools. So Okay, so let's talk about goals. So as I mentioned, goals are really, really important in the application process. When you have more applicants than there are seats available, schools are looking at their ability to support those individuals succeed in their short and long-term career. Also, I'm sure you know, and you've heard about this, that recruiting and recruiting preparation starts before you step foot on campus. Therefore, there's not a lot of time for you to actually reflect and explore in relation to your goals. Obviously, everyone wants that summer internship that converts into a full-time return offer. So, the work that you do initially is going to be really important. When schools are looking at admitting candidates, they are looking at the feasibility of their goals. How realistic are they? Is the school able to support those ambitions that you have? So your short and long-term goals are really critical. If you haven't done a lot of that thinking up till now, it's really important that you allot time to reflect on your goals and stress test those goals to make sure that they're not just ideals that is what you hear online that you should be doing, rather that they are also rooted on your genuine interests, because those typically contribute to the authenticity, but also makes for a much more stronger application, much more compelling presentation of what is it that you want to do. Your goals should also be aligned on your values. Value-based goals are really important. That's what makes a strong application, or at least the beginning of a strong application, when it comes to reading it. What is it that your values are, and how do your values contribute to the goals that you want or that you're directing your career towards? And then also your goals should be specific. I know there's discussions that happen online around should your goals be specific or not very specific. My recommendation from my professional experiences is that you are specific in your goals, as specific as possible, because it allows the admission team reading your application have a real sense of what your values are, what your short and long-term goals are, and how are they able to support you in that vision. If your goals are vague, they will assume that you haven't done a lot of work in your application. You haven't reflected enough as to what you want to do, what the next chapter looks like for you, which obviously decreases their probability of endorsing or recommending you for admission. So you just see how important this component is in the application process. Academics and everything related to academics, which is, your GPA, your GMAT, GRE, or executive assessments for some programs. You want to, schools do look at the entire profile, but they do also value your academic aptitude. Now, there are a few components that I want you to keep in mind as you're putting together your application. Because everyone's question is, what should my GMAT be? What should my GRE be? And it all depends on your overall profile. Obviously, you want to be competitive You want to be, you want to be in alignment with what the class average for your target institution is. However, this all depends on your overall experience. I have definitely helped applicants who had a below average GMAT to GRE score get into these top M7, top 10, top 15 schools, but the rest of the application was really strong. The academics were really strong. And also they attended institution that had rigorous academics, which helped the admission team really feel confident that this individual is accustomed to being taught, knows how to learn, and is able to academically succeed. I know this is business school, and you are, you may be thinking that, oh, it's all about, the business experience, which is true, of course. However, you are still applying to an academic institution. So academic rigor and academic aptitude is going to be really important. And you show that through your GPA in college, your GMAT or GRE, that is more recent reflection. If your GPA is not very strong in university and you're still struggling with your test score, you definitely should be considering taking courses that are credit-bearing or certificate-bearing courses that will allow or will make the admission committee feel more confident on your ability. There's a lot of nuances here that are dependent. So if you want to have a conversation with me about your specific performance and what you should be targeting and ways that we can support you in that, reach out to us for a obligation-free consultation. There is going to be a link to that on the description of this event, as well as, of course, on the screen and in the comments. So I will say, as far as the academics, remember that everything is holistic in the application. It's not just one thing that is going to be determining your admission. I have helped applicants with a 2.5 GPA get into an M7, right? It is not, if your GPA was not ideal, it's not the end of your professional career. It's not the end of you being able to attend a top-ranked institution. It's really all about what your experiences have been and how can you demonstrate that you are a different person today than you were when you were in college, and exploring, which happens more often than you think. So your professional experiences and extracurricular experiences, I have lumped these together because there is a correlation between those in relation to what the admission teams are looking for in applicants. So obviously, whatever it is that you do, they want impact. They're looking for impact. So if you are a member of a local organization and you just show up to events, that's not really something that's going to make you stand. It actually can, if you include that in your application, it can weaken it. So you want to be reflective of what those experiences have been and be able to select the things that make you look good at the end of the day, right? So the work that you have done, whether it's on your professional experiences in the teams, projects you've worked on, or in your extracurricular activities, whether those have been extracurriculars in terms of volunteer work for your organization, or you've done something in the local community or in college, anything that you are including in your application, you should always be thinking of it as the impact, the contributions that you were able to make. Sometimes those contributions are qualitative, or the impact is qualitative or quantitative, or a combination of both. But you do need to be able to reflect on what those are and be able to tell them what your contributions have been specifically, right? Of course, focus on diversity is going to be really, really important, showcasing how you've done that, whether it is evident or not so evident. You want to make sure that it is communicated in your applications. This means, of course, in your resume, in the stories that you choose to share in relation to the application or essays themselves, the short answer questions in the portals of each of the schools that you are applying to, and sometimes even in the letters of recommendation, the impact is going to be really important. I strongly suggest that you think of your profile as holistic, not as individual pieces, and everything that you share should add to this comprehensive view of who you are, that you are someone who is value-based, someone who is impact-focused, and really cares about bringing people together of diverse background for the ultimate goal, whichever that ultimate goal is for you, whether that's have success in the project, make the community a better place, whatever that may be. What's really important here is that you have time to reflect on what your values are. What values do you bring to the MBA community? And this is where that authenticity comes into play, where that reflection comes into play. So this is not typically something that, one, we're accustomed to doing, but two, it's not something that you should anticipate being able to do very quickly. This requires brainstorming, requires putting together a plan, then requires iterations and reflections and making sure that what's in your mind, what's in your experiences is communicated in the written documents that you are submitting first. And then, of course, also making sure that you are preparing for those interviews to be able to communicate the same values and the same contributions to the interviewer, whether that's a second-year student, a first-year student, alumnus, or an admission representative. Excellent. Now, recommenders are also really, really important. You hear me, if you follow my videos, you hear me talk about this often. Recommenders are another voice, an external voice that speaks about your contribution to the admission team. And it's really important that those individuals are enthusiastic or enthusiastically endorsing you. When it comes to the admission team, what they're looking for is that you have people that believe in you, right? And the person that you choose to write the letters of recommendation should be enthusiastically supportive of you and your future. It should be authentic, right? If they're just speaking about how amazing you are without any areas for improvement, well, that's not really an authentic letter recommendation. Therefore, they will question everything that's included in there, right? So there should be a balance between authenticity and, of course, highlighting your strengths. Recommender needs to be someone who is able to write in detail about your contributions. Therefore, they also need time to reflect on putting together an application. And of course, it's show, not tell. Showing what you have done, not just telling them what you have done or telling them how amazing you are. It's really about being able to communicate specific details, specific examples that will make you that will support what you have written in your own application, and of course make the admission committee much more confident in recommending you for admission. I do support in this entire process. So if you are looking for someone to help you do the brainstorming, put together a strategy, and dive deeper into making sure that you're submitting an application that is authentically yours, I encourage you to reach out. We do have 30-minute consultation, free consultation call, no obligation. We talk about your background. We talk about your competitiveness in the application cycle. I'll give you some ideas of where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and then we can also talk about how I can support you in that process. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out and book your specific call. So why don't we dive into questions? I'm going to stop sharing screens so I can fully read the question that has come in. Let's do this. Perfect. All right. So as a quick reminder, if you have specific questions, whichever platform you're joining us from, please write the questions in the comments. We will not show your name on the screen, so you should feel confident on that it won't be playing on YouTube. And I'm happy to answer, of course, your individual questions that you have in this process. So we've had questions that have come through the registration form, and the first one is, does having 7 months stint in investment banking after 2 years at a Big Four matter if you've now done 2 years at a startup? It all depends. I mean, everything matters in your application. It all depends on how you tie all those experiences together. What I typically see when people are changing careers, that frequently the first thing, if it's not presented correctly, the first thing that I will immediately jump to is this person is unsure what they're doing. So you really want to make sure that there is always the way you're presenting your experiences is in alignment to your growth and to your values. So it matters, but if you're able to present it in a way that shows that those are valuable experiences that are contributing to your end goal in some particular way to you, then it will be viewed as a positive. But if not, then you risk it actually working against you. Excellent. Next question. How do school values affect admission process? Okay, so let me answer that part. It's really important that you are recognizing that you are applying to an institution that has specific values that they care about. Those values are immediately reflected in how they look at a candidate. And does the candidate match the values of the institution? So I will take a really good example. Berkeley Haas has its 4 pillars, right? One of those 4 pillars is confidence without attitude. Now, if you present yourself as someone who has an attitude, well, you're not matching those values. Therefore, you are not the right candidate for them. So it absolutely does matter, and it affects the admission process. Scholarships. So I always say, the first step is getting in, because there's no scholarship without getting in, right? So if you get through the first phase of getting in, then the scholarships are based on merit. Merit means what you have accomplished, what you have done, what the impact you've made, your test scores, your academic performance. Those are the elements that impact scholarship. I have had candidates who have received offers at M7s without scholarships. And there's an element of negotiations that should also take place, meaning if you have offers in hand, you're definitely going to be able to negotiate between schools. With some schools, there's no negotiation, and you just accept that if you're choosing them, you will go there because of the impact they're going to have in your long-term and short-term career. And that's obviously something that you decide later on. But the stronger your academic performance and your impact has been, the more likely it is that you get a scholarship, unless you have a need-based scholarship, which that's an entirely different evaluation process. I see a question in the chat. So it says, could you share the link to the application services? We're definitely happy to do that. We can send that offline to you. So if you just reach out to info@CA-admissions, we can definitely share that with you as well. Perfect. So let's go to the next question before we end today's call. So how does the admission committee evaluate candidates with non-traditional backgrounds, such as those from creative industries or entrepreneurship? Schools actually love non-traditional backgrounds, because if you think about what it is that they're trying to put together and the individuals that they are admitted is a diverse classroom. whoever you speak to, I'm sure you will hear or have already heard that a lot of the learning happens between peers. So the admission committee is looking to put together a diverse classroom so that you can not only learn from the professor, but also from individuals in your peer group. So non-traditional backgrounds are absolutely bringing a lot of value. Creative industries for sure, and entrepreneurship as well. So I would say, when I talked about make sure that you know what your value is, the value that you're bringing to the MBA classroom. And that's the trick for non-traditional backgrounds. Typically, they have a hard time sharing what the values they bring to the MBA cohort. And this is something that requires time and reflection. And obviously, we're definitely here to help with those. But make sure that you're taking the time to reflect on what the experiences you have had, and how are those going to be beneficial to the MBA classroom. Don't assume that they will know. They see a lot of investment bankers, finance professionals, sort of the traditional fields, and they have a much more understanding of what that looks like and the value that those individuals can bring to the classroom. You as a non-traditional applicant means they're not that versed in the experiences that you've had. Therefore, you need to spell it out essentially for them and show them what those are going to be. In terms of how you're presenting your experiences. Excellent. So I've had some specific questions. Yes, I do have experiences with MIT's LGO and then Tennessee scholarship applications as well. If you want to have a conversation specifically about your case, definitely reach out to have a conversation one-on-one. It's you and me, one-on-one conversation about your background. So with that, I'm going to end today's session, but I invite you to register for next week's event, and that's going to be specifically on the HBS application. We're going to talk a little bit about what does HBS look for in candidates, which is very different from other schools. And I know that you're going to get tremendous value from that. So definitely make sure to register. If you're not able to attend in particular, make sure that you write your question, what's your specific question, in your registration form so that I can make sure that I answer it. And then whenever you have time, you can watch the replay and see that your question has been answered. Excellent. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week.